The President Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, led America through World War I and crafted the Versailles Treaty 14 points, the last on which was creating a League of Nations to ensure world peace. Wilson also created the Federal Reserve and supported the 19th Amendment allowing women to vote. The first question that we have to us is who was Woodrow Wilson? Thomas Woodrow Wilson was born on December 28, 1856 to February 3rd, 1924. He was an academic and politician who served as the two-term 28th President of the United States from 1913 to 1921. Wilson spent his youth in the South observing the Civil War in its aftermath. A dedicated scholar and enthusiastic orator, he earned multiple degrees before embarking on a university career. In a fast-rise politically, he spent 2 years as governor of New Jersey before being elected in 1912 to the presidency of the United States. As president, Wilson saw America through World War I, negotiating the Treaty of Versailles and crafting the League of Nations, a precursor of the United Nations. His legacy includes sweeping reforms for the middle class, voting rights for women, and preserves for world peace. However, Wilson is also known for a dismal record on race relations. During the last year of his presidency, Wilson suffered his second stroke and died 3 years after leaving office. The 28th President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, was the two-term 28th President of the United States, serving from 1913 to 1921. Wilson was nominated as the Democratic presidential candidate on the New Freedom platform in 1912, opposing Republican incumbent William Howard Taft. However, Theodore Roosevelt Taft's predecessor was disgusted with his performance as president and launched a third-party run. This split the Republican vote, ensuring Wilson's win. He was inaugurated on March 4, 1930. Women's suffrage. The new president entered the White House just as the women's suffrage movement was gaining full steam. So Wilson was strongly lukewarm towards a women's right to vote. Historians generally agreed that his views of suffrage involved and he eventually supported the cause. In 1917, a group of suffragists picketed outside the White House demanding Wilson's support. The group was peaceful but soon turned violent, with many protesters arrested and thrown in jail. At first, Wilson was outraged by the women's conduct, but he was appalled to learn that some had gone on a hunger strike and were being force-fed by the police. In a speech before the Senate in January 1918, Wilson publicly endorsed a woman's right to vote. Joining his daughter, Jessie Woodrow Wilson, Wilson continued to speak for the cause and contacted members of Congress with personal and written appeals. Finally, on August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment was ratified by a two-thirds majority of the state. Economic reforms. Wilson's new platform favored small business and farmers, and he went after what he termed the triple wall of privilege. In 1913, he took the Underwood-Simons Act, which reduced tax rates that had previously favored industrialists over small business. He also approved the Federal Reserve Act, making loans more accessible to average Americans. The future exports antitrust legislation in 1914 with the Clayton Antitrust Act, which supported labor unions, allowing it for strikes, boycotts, and peaceful picketing. World War I. At the outbreak of World War I in Europe on July 26, 1914, Wilson declared America neutral, believing that to fight you must be brutal and ruthless, and the spirit of ruthless brutality will enter into the very fever of our national life. This produced a compelling slogan for his second term election. He kept us out of war. Wilson tried to dispense a peace protocol to Great Britain along with the money and ammunition they asked for, but was refused. He finally asked Congress to declare war in April 1917 when Germany repeatedly ignored United States neutrality and sunk American ships. When the war was over, nearly a year and a half later, Americans were perceived as heroes. The Great War was also meant to be the last war. 14 points. Wilson proposed the 14 points as the basis for the peace treaty at Versailles, with the last point being the creation of a League of Nations to ensure world peace. While adopted by Europe, Congress did not approve the United States joining the League of Nations. Wilson toured the nation in an effort to increase public support for the League, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1920 for his efforts. Early life and education. Thomas, as Woodrow Wilson was called in his youth, was the third of four children and one studious and devout household. The family lived all over the South, moving from Staunton, Virginia to Augusta, Georgia. In Tammy's first year in 1870, they moved to Columbia, Southern California, where Wilson's father, Reverend Wilson, taught at the Columbia Technological Seminary. Living in the South and witnessing the ravages of the Civil War up close, Reverend Wilson, a northern transplant, adopted the Confederate cause. Tommy's mother, nurse, wounded soldiers during the conflict. After war, Tommy saw Confederate President Jefferson Davis march through Augusta in chains, and always remember looking up into the face of the defeated General Robert E. Lee. Less than stellar in school, scholars now think that Woodrow had a problem of dyslexia. Wilson was rigorously trained by his father, Reverend Wilson, in oratory and debate, which became a particular passion for the boy. He enrolled at Nervy Davidson College, but transferred to Princeton in 1875, known as the College of New Jersey until 1896. Wilson went on to study law at the University of Virginia and earned his Ph.D. in political science and history at Johns Hopkins University. His thesis, Congressional Government, was published, launching a university career. Academic career. Political ambitions at university politics had transformed Wilson into a social democrat, and he was tapped for the governorship of New Jersey in 1910. A determined reformer, his success made him the darling of progressives, preceding his election to the presidency in 1912. The most interesting fact of Woodrow Wilson, from my point of view, is when and how did Woodrow Wilson die. Woodrow Wilson died from a stroke and heart complications at the age of 67 on February 3rd, 1924. Wilson was buried in Washington National Cathedral. Wilson was driven by a sense of mission and an ideal his father had instilled in him to leave the world a better place than you found it. Wilson left a legacy of peace, social and final reforms, and statesmanship with integrity, which lives on at the many schools and programs named after him, most notably the Woodrow Wilson National Fellowship Foundation and his old alma mater, Princeton University's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs. Thanks for watching and listening. And thank you, teacher and classmates. That is my project.